Welcome to Stories from the Sidelines, a podcast coming out of the Media Gang where we talk to the unsung heroes of paintball. Today we're going to have Jeff Stein. Jeff, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
The fuck does unsung mean?
People that don't like get recognition everywhere, you know? No one ever talks to the coaches. They talk to the players.
For the most part. Sorry, your question was, who am I?
Yeah, who are you? Tell a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jeff Stein. I ran a professional team from 2004 to 2009 called the New England Hurricanes. The Hurricanes stopped playing pro in 2009. We played D1 for a couple of seasons and then disappeared for a couple of seasons. I ran the Bay State Bandits from 14 to 16. Then I jumped in with the P-Mob for a couple of seasons, and then the Hurricanes came back last year. So spent the last decade in semi-pro, and no, that's not true. Spent the last half decade in semi-pro. Before that, some time in D2, and before that, some time in pro. And I also own a field in Rhode Island called Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. And anybody who is not, and probably a lot of people who listen to this podcast, have never played in the woods, you don't know what you're missing. There's a reason paintball used to be really, really popular, and it's because it used to be really, really fun. You should go and see what the roots of paintball looked like.
Absolutely believe that. I was super pumped. We actually made a 10-man team with half the team was media guys. We pulled a couple refs, and then we were pulling some other players because people weren't going to be able to make it for ICC. Yeah. But we were all super pumped, and it was going to be like the one event that like all of us were able to play,
right?
Which was going to be really cool. And it would have been really funny, like if we went up against X Factors, like we're the guys that make you look cool. You guys should like let us get a couple bodies.
And then they shit on us.
Yeah. I mean, they gotta try to win. I mean, it would be kind of upsetting if you lost to the guys that ref and took pictures.
It's an interesting commentary on our sport that the segment of the market that's growing fastest is old players coming back to play mechanical in the woods. It's not a good sign for paintball, but it should tell something to the younger guys out there. Like, go out and try this. Go out and see what it was because paintball, you go to these 10-man events, and it's like paintball used to be. You show up and you're social, you're hanging out with people, and you're having fun. You go to the NXL, and you're face down dragging a gear bag. You go into your pitch, play your 2 matches. You're face down going back to your cars, and you leave. There's a social element, a community element that doesn't exist anymore. And it's that community element that was attractive to most of us playing. I mean, it's a stupid sport, right? I mean, it is. It's a stupid little sport, but it's the people who play that make it what it is, and we don't celebrate that anymore. But the 10-man stuff really does. So if you haven't played 10-man, you should. If you haven't played in the woods, you really should. Put down your ego and your DSR and go get an autococker. An autococker, and try some mechanical paintball.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe in that. It's weird coming from being a player and now doing media. It's very much of, I used to want to go around and say hi to people, say what's up, and like hang out and stuff. But it's like, no, but dude, I'm getting ready for a match. Like I gotta get focused. I gotta go get paint. I gotta do like 19,000 things to get ready. And now it's like, as media, it's like I show up. It's like, hey, dude, like good luck. Just like hanging out. Like you're getting ready. It's just like I got my camera, snap a couple candids, and just like it's what I wanted out of paintball.
Yeah,
and I've definitely come to realize. And don't get me wrong, I miss playing competitively, and like I like to play like competitively like once or twice. I mean, who doesn't want to do something competitive at least a couple of times? But for the most part, like I'm going to go hang out with my friends. Like yeah, they have to be focused, but like at the same time, it's just like this is me getting to see people that I don't normally get to see.
Right,
right. People all around the country it definitely is better for doing that as a media guy than it is a player.
Oh, yeah. As a player, being a part of a team is because you got to be focused in the job in front of you. And there's always shit going on. You don't really have time. And if you're somebody who makes time, like Harrison Fry makes time to go around and say hi, and all of his teammates universally hate him for it because as they're trying to get paint, they're trying to make sure we have pods. They're trying to get a team picture. Harrison's off.
Yeah. Social butterfly. Just like, come on, dude.
But that's why so many divisional players love Harrison.
Right. Well, yeah, there's actually a team picture of the Bandits from 2017 where they had to Photoshop Harrison in because they couldn't find him when they took the picture.
That's amazing. I mean, but that's who he is.
That's just how he. Yeah, he's always been like that.
Yeah. So I know that you've coached the Hurricanes. You did a little bit P-Mob. You did a little bit Bay State Bandits. I mean, I guess let's start from the beginning. Like, how did you get into coaching like such a high divisional team? Did they start off lower in like D4, D3, or were they originally just like way up there?
We started off in what was called novice. There weren't the divisional levels.
Yeah.
And novice became the year that we graduated from novice. They created an intermediate. So originally it was pro, amateur, novice. Then there was pro, amateur, intermediate, novice. We went from novice to intermediate and went from intermediate to amateur. In 2000, I think it was 2002. Yeah, 2002, Mike Goodman from P&L Paintball was on the team. Dave Archibald was on the team. And really it came down to a question. I had built a team that was too good for me to play on. And so the question for me was, is it more important for me to play, in which case I have to take the team in a different direction. I'm going to lose a lot of players, and I should lose a lot of players because they're too good to play with a scrub like me. Or do I want to see how far I can take building a team, which means that I need to stop playing? And I'd been mulling the question for a while, and then I had a conversation with one of the players on the team, Thomas Mantoni, and Thomas said to me, somebody needs to get cut, and it's either you or this other person, and you need to decide who, but we're not going to win with both of you playing. And when Thomas said that, I made the decision that now it's time, and so I stopped playing. I've played a few tournaments since then. I've played a few times just for fun, a number of times just for fun since then. Yeah. But that was the end of my trying to play competitively, and I was not a good player. I was a pretty good cheater, but then once the airball, that kind of went out the window. So
yeah, it's easier to cheat in the woods.
It is definitely easier to cheat in the woods.
Cheat in the woods. My best tournament, I think, was Skyball. I don't remember the year, but the reffing was really bad. And I remember talking to Mike Hood, who was on the team back then, saying, like, after the fifth game, I said, I think I've been shot 40 times. And Mike was like, how the fuck are you getting shot that much? It almost doesn't matter. I'm wiping these hits so bad. Well, who cares? We played one game against the Naughty Dogs, I remember. And Mike is a 6'6" Wookiee-looking dude.
Jesus.
And every single game, he'd say, hey, they're running to this bunker on the right. And every single game, I'd say, yeah, I know. And we'd break, and I'd shoot the lane. And so against the Naughty Dogs, Mike decided he was going to shoot the lane. So instead of coming out the left side of the bunker, he came out the right side of the bunker. And in so doing, he hip-checked me, and I fell to the ground, which was why I was the only Hurricane who was not effectively shot immediately off the break. So I stand up, and the Naughty Dogs are already there getting ready to hang the flag, and nobody's looking at me, and I'm not hit. And a ref says to me, are you out, or is this a dead man's walk? And he said it a little bit too loud, but as soon as he said it, I was like, I might be able to pull this off. And I looked over my shoulder, and there were two Naughty Dog players right like that with a gun.
Yeah, it's like, you got me.
I'm out. I've been out. It's crazy.
Yeah, we don't have to keep going through this. I know where I stand on this one. No, that's great. Wait, wasn't it like 2 years ago at Cup on the semi-pro field that somebody? Oh no, it was the D3 or D2 field. Somebody, it's like a team from like Venezuela or something. They did it on the Padres because I remember Chaz. I forget his last name.
Flip the fuck out.
Oh yeah, but Stretch has a picture of it. Of just like Chaz, like gun in his face, like the point's over, like flags are being thrown. He's just like, dude, there's no way that you're getting away with this. And I think they got a major for it, but I think they still pulled out the match. But like, it was ridiculous that like at Cup, like somebody pulled off a dead man's walk, and I was just honestly
Dallas last year. We played a team, and I forget the team. Excuse me, but they had pulled off 2 or 3. I think it was 3 dead man's walks. So right off the bat, it's like, okay, so that means the first time, okay, cool, you did it. But after that means 3 times during that tournament, there was somebody alive on the field who thought the best way he could contribute to his team was pretending not to be alive. So that, you have to practice more or something.
Yeah.
But I said to the ref before the game, I said, we're going to bonus ball the shit out of these guys. And the ref was like, yeah, you better. Like, as long as we all understand what's going to happen here. Like, there's nobody who's leaving this field without 30 balls in them, because I want every one of my players to make sure that every one of their players is actually out. And it's like, you wrote that check for yourself by pulling off. I mean, God bless you for pulling off Dead Man's Walks.
Oh, absolutely. That's like super hard. Like I'm impressed.
But you wrote a check, and God damn it, we're going to cash it.
Yeah, for 100%. It's like you kind of have to expect like that's gonna happen. Like after the first one, it's like, well, all right, they did it once. Like from now on, you just gotta check them off. Like doesn't have to be a lot, but like you just gotta check them off again.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say everyone's loving the old school talk.
Yeah,
people love old school paintball.
Yeah, we got the comments going. Everybody's been real happy, and John Christ says he misses you, bud. Says hi.
Oh, hey, John.
Yeah, he's tuned in.
John or anybody else, I guess, since Vegas.
Yeah, it's been a long time for everybody. I mean, it's the year's kind of gone by pretty fast, but when you realize Cup is supposed to be in 2 months, you realize how fast it really did go by.
The second tournament of the year.
Oh my God. Don't even get me started with that. But going back to the Hurricanes, you guys started off in novice and you worked your way up. I mean, how did it feel to take a team from basically the bottom, make the executive decision, and yourself just like, I'm not going to play, I'm going to coach, I'm going to manage it, and take that step back, which I do very much think that is a very critical role, especially at the higher levels, that you do need somebody that is doing the X's and O's, managing the pits, dealing with like sponsors and gear and refs, and like just to make sure that players are just like, hey, you have a job. I tell you to do what you need to do it. Like if something goes wrong, it's on me. And like, did it feel like a natural switch to you? And especially even like at the highest level?
I'd been doing it, part of the problem was that I'd been doing it while I was trying to play. And so, getting rid of one of the roles just made it easier, because you'd sit there and you show up in the morning for a tournament. And back in the day when you didn't have layout releases, so everybody needs to go and walk the fields and make sure we understand what we're doing, what our roles are. But while that's happening, somebody has to make sure that we're registered. Somebody has to make sure that we have paint. Somebody has to make sure that we have pods. So I would go and take care of all of the team requirements while the team was walking the field. Then right off the bat, I was excluded from 2/3 of the game plans because I wasn't there when the game plans were being made. And if you're not there, a D2 team, how do you get to play? You raise your hand the most. So I'd already really been doing primarily that role, and I was kind of playing, let's call it charity minutes. If we were in on Sunday and it didn't really matter, then Jeff gets to play a few points. And that wasn't, I didn't take that necessarily as an insult. I put myself in that position by doing the shit that the team needed to be done. And if I didn't do that, then okay, I could have played every point, every game match, maybe, but we wouldn't have had fucking paint because nobody went and paid the paint bill. So when it came time to make the decision, I was really only giving up, a handful of games, a tournament, anyways.
No,
and it was the right move. I mean, and I'd known for a while that it had actually bothered me for a while. I was building a team because I saw this coming maybe 2 years before it happened, that I was better at evaluating and collecting talent and organizing a team than I was at playing with that talent. So at the end of the day, I was going to be frustrated one way or the other. I was going to be frustrated because some people suck like me, or I'm going to be frustrated because I can't play.
Yeah. And to be honest, like that's a super hard skill, is to finding those diamonds in the rough, or just being able to evaluate time and be like, hey, like you are not playing at the right skill level. Like you could be playing up, or hey, you should be playing down, and like work on some things. Yeah. And I think that a lot of like the better coaches are able to do that. And I think a really good example is Jesse Stevens. Like when he made the choice to stop playing pro, went down, played semi-pro, D1, whatever it was, for it was like 1 or 2, like it was like 2 or 3 years, and then he came back and X Factor picked him up, and now he's a starter, and he does really well. You know what I mean? And like it was very much the conversation is like, hey, you need a little bit more experience at the level below us. That way you get more spins. It's going to be much better for you in the long run, and it's paid off. So being able to be that mentor figure and have those sometimes brutally honest conversations with players, like it's a tough, it's much tougher than a lot of people think, but it helps shapes people for the better. And
I have cut people and I have fired people, and I think it's harder to cut people.
really,
Your job you go to because they pay you. Your paintball team you go to because you love it, and you feel like. And we have this nonsense. We're a family. I mean, we're not a family because you don't have the option of cutting grandpa.
yeah.
Me.
Familial. What's that?
He's about to cut his grandfather for the team.
He's not up to par. He's not up to par.
I'm missing Christmas gifts, Grandpa. You're cut.
Turn off bar. So we're not a family, but you do paintball because you want to, and you do develop. When the Hurricane old school team has gotten together recently for a 10-man event, and I spent every weekend, maybe not every weekend, but with the old school guys, I probably spent 40 weekends a year for 4 or 5 years with kids. And it's weird for me getting together with him now, and B-Ron has a fucking child. I mean, that's insane to me. Son has kids, multiple kids. It's crazy, but we spent an enormous amount of time together, and we were kind of like a family that you chose. And unfortunately, for the person in charge, you want to feel like you're a part of that. You want that energy. It's part of what attracts you to doing this. But that at the end of the day, with every family member, someday you might have to take him out behind the barn and put one in the back of the head. Which, and sometimes I sit back and I think, like, if I wasn't friendly with these people, then it would be much easier to cut them when the time came. But then you're not enjoying the experience. So hopefully you have people that can understand that this is it's a results driven activity, and you should enjoy it while you're doing it. But you should also understand that when you're no longer contributing at the level that you need to contribute, it's going to end. Whether that was you as a player, or me as a player. I've cut some of my very, very best friends from teams, and I hated doing it, but is it fair to anybody not to? So, like, I need to cut you because you're not doing as well as you need to. You're consistently fucking up. You're consistently a weight on the team. Let's say I don't cut you because I want to be friendly. Okay, so what happens? Fast forward 6 months. Everybody in the team now resents you. Your friendships with the people on the team is now deteriorating because they fucking resent you because you're causing us to lose. And, unless you're a complete fucking dumbass, you've picked up on this. So you wait 6 months too long, and the players no longer like the guy that should have been cut. And the guy who should have been cut is no longer happy in what he's doing. So all you've managed to do is allow what could have been a nice, clean surgical separation to fester into some kind of a toxic cancer. When the time comes, the time comes. And, sooner or later it comes for everybody. Luckily for paintball players, this is not a very athletic sport. You don't really need to be in the best shape in the world. It helps. But you look at the dynasty guys, as they get older, they get smarter. So even though they're physically not what they were 10 years ago, they are mentally more than they were 10 years ago. And paintball is one of those sports where that mental side can surpass the physical side. And you can continue to play until you are 30. People don't retire from paintball because they can't physically do it. People retire from paintball because they have a mortgage and a kid and they need to pay it.
Yeah, they're more important things. Yeah. I mean, I think a great example is like Dave Baines. I mean, he's not exactly the most athletic guy, but he's an absolute monster on the field. And he was a beast, and I loved watching him play. I mean, I don't know how he did it. He had like a force field around him or something. But there are just some of those people that, like, I've watched like a couple of people. You still watch Lance Hardwick. He used to play on Top Gun. I don't know how he did. He walked to every bunker though. Like I've never seen that man run a day of my life, but he did it well. He made it work. So it's that mental side that, like, if you get it, like, you don't need to be athletic to play this sport.
You mentioned Dave Baines. So Dave will always have a special place in my heart. When the Hurricanes first went pro, and we were a bunch of kids, I remember we were at Huntington Beach, and Leds brought us back behind the Planet Eclipse tent to get gear. And not Leds, Jacko. Leds walked in and thought we were robbing the place, and actually went out down. It was like, there's a bunch of kids back there stealing shit. And he's like, no, that's a pro team. Dynasty and Dave Baines were one of the very, very few teams that treated the kids in the Hurricanes like they belonged. And, Jesus, that was 2004. So 16 years later, that's something that still, there are players on Dynasty who I didn't get along with, but I'll never say a bad word about Dynasty. I'll never say a bad word about Dave Baines, because they treated the kids on the Hurricanes like they were legitimate pros who deserved to be there. They didn't treat them like a bunch of shit kickers who didn't know shit about shit. And the reality is we didn't. I mean, Ryan Greenspan, there used to be the pro player paddocks and 7-mans. You didn't have pits, but all the pro teams would stage in the same area. And we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We would always show up without pods, without squeegees, without barrel socks, without. So Ryan Greenspan would actually come by. Though I remember one time he came by and he was just, seemed like he was a little bit disgusted at how completely unprepared we were. And then the next tournament he came by with a fucking care package full of squeegees and shit like that for the team. It was great. And he did that 2 or 3 times. I don't even know if Ron remember this, but that was one of the things that always stuck out in my head. Naughty Dogs in comparison, and Rocky Newt played a huge role in my coming up as a manager and a coach. Our first pro game was against the Naughty Dogs. They blew us off the field in 3 seconds, maybe 4. It didn't take them very long. And we were walking off the field. Rocky saw me. He was like, "Welcome to the fucking pro division." Rocky, Naughty Dogs, goddamn.
So I think part of the reason that Dynasty resonated so well with you guys and respected you guys as much is because a lot of those guys were kids when they went pro too.
Nobody will ever. Dynasty actually did a huge disservice to this sport, because it made all the idiots who play paintball believe that you can go pro with your friends, because you can't go pro with your friends. You can't go pro with your friends. Not all of them. Not an entire fucking roster that started.
Yeah.
The Hurricanes it wasn't all of them, but we came very, very close. The core of our team had been playing together since the first day they played paintball. We had additional pieces. Buddy Greg Hinthorn was one, Billy Bernaccia and Thomas Mantoni. But the core of our team had a dynasty-like story. But for any kid who's watching right now, you have your best friends and you're on a team with them. Look to your left and look to your right and imagine that one of them, or probably both of them, are dead if you want to continue to play, because that's the truth. You're not going to happen across 5 kids that are going to go all the way to pro. It's just not going to, not in today's world, not in X-ball, when there's all this, athleticism and speed and other shit that's baked into it. It's not going to happen. Take your fat friend and explain to him that you really love him, but then delete his number from your phone.
Can we just talk about, he just said, imagine your friends are dead, and that's exactly what paintball is like.
Yeah. That's the. So I mean, I have to ask this question. It came from the comments, Brian Osborne, especially after a comment like that. It's like, have you ever made a player cry? Whether it's cutting them or just doing something. Yeah, you don't have to tell us who. I feel like that'd be really mean, but go right ahead if you want to.
I won't, but it's more than one.
Oh Jesus, it's terrifying.
Like I said, you do this because you want to do this. So when you're cut from a team, it's often emotional and it often sucks. I don't know that crying is such a bad thing. I think Christ will tell you. Anytime I get into a conversation about Ron Butler that lasts more than 5 minutes, I start crying.
Oh man, he was such a saint. I'm from New Jersey too, and I used to live 10 minutes from PBA. I mean, it's especially after he passed away, what happened to the shop and everything. I remember it got robbed two or three times months after.
When Ronnie was alive, nobody would have robbed that fucking store.
Oh yeah. I remember that. My buddy Justin Mines, because I grew up playing at All-Star Paintball, which is I don't know, maybe even 10 minutes away from that, super close to me.
Yeah.
And so I'd go outside and play there, or I'd play at Top Gun, and then indoors during the winter would be at All-Star. But yeah, I mean, Ron Butler was just super, super nice guy. Jersey Rangers, that whole era of 7-man and stuff that they had. I mean, they had at his house, he had a private field at his house.
Yeah. There's a room at Ron's house that was Jeff Stein's room.
Really? I didn't know that.
Never got to stay there, but yeah, there was a room that was my room.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
I have 2 questions. First one came from Brian, actually. He wants to know, what kind of whiskey are you drinking?
I'm drinking a bottle of Lang's called Rich and Refined. So this is what is called a vatted malt. Unless you really know whiskeys, you have no idea what a vatted malt is.
Okay.
Single malt is a barrel that the bottle that comes from one distillery. So it's not necessarily one age. They'll have, a 12-year means that the youngest whiskey in the bottle is 12 years old, but it'll have multiple different bottles. A vatted malt means that they are mixing finished whiskeys from different distilleries. So it's much more expensive, which is one of the reasons you don't see it very much anymore. One of the reasons you don't see it very much anymore. But it provides a wider range of flavor profiles.
I'm going to have to try it. I'm a big whiskey person.
So
yeah, but you didn't know what a vatted malt was.
I have not.
During COVID, I've begun experimenting a lot with Canadian whiskeys, and Canadian whiskeys are a lot similar to vatted malts. In the U.S., you have a mash bill. The mash bill will be, I'm making shit up, let's say it's 51% corn because it's a bourbon, 17% barley, 31% whatever. And they mix it all together and they distill it and they age it all together in a barrel. In Canada, they will age the corn separate from the rye, separate from the barley, and then mix the finished products together. So I've avoided Canadian whiskeys through most of my career, Jesus Christ. Most of my
professional drinker over here.
I went with Don Draper from Mad Men drank Canadian Club, and I thought if it's good enough for Don Draper, it's good for me, but it was not good enough for me. It was fucking garbage. And I had not touched Canadian whiskey ever since. And what I've come to find out is that the good Canadian whiskey usually doesn't leave Canada, but there's actually some really, really, so in fact, the next thing I'm going to drink is Ellington Reserve 8-year Canadian whiskey.
Nice.
If I finish both bottles, it'll be a real fun fucking podcast.
I like it.
Feel free to finish both bottles. So the second question I had, so we were talking about players, how everything's kind of evolved, stuff like that. As a coach, you obviously have to evolve with it as well. So is there anything that you're doing majorly different from when you first started coaching, when you were in pro, to now? Like, is it a whole different thing, or
so?
What do you think?
I don't coach; I manage. One of the things
so who coaches then?
Right now, the coach of the Hurricanes is a gentleman named Sean Hurd and Dean Carlton. So Dean was the owner and coach of the Preferred Mob, and Sean was a player on a local team to New England. I think it was NEX. And so that's who's coaching right now. Mike Jeffrey, who coached the Wreckage, New England Wreckage last year, is also on board with us. We're trying to see, now that we've decided to all go to Orlando and get for World Cup, we're trying to see what the coaching situation is going to look like. I believe Sean has told me he can go. I believe Dean has told me he can go. Mike is not sure if he can go. But so I'm too busy doing other shit. It's the same reason that I stopped playing. Find people who are good at the jobs that they do and empower them to do the jobs. If I'm going to be distracted dealing with sponsors and paint and all the other bullshit, I want somebody who can be 100% focused on coaching and scouting teams, and that's not going to be me. Number two, I get way too emotional. I mean, I yell at my players for picking fights, but I pick fights, and that's the bottom line. So I get too emotionally involved. I remember hearing a story about Dave Painter with 187, and they kicked him out of the pits. And they kicked him out of the pits because he was too emotionally. He got too excited during matches, and they sent him to yell and scream from the far tape line with the spectators. I'm not calm and collected enough to be able to coach. And frankly, I don't know paintball well enough to coach at the level that I want this team to get to. And I don't know that I know paintball. I don't think that I know paintball well enough to coach at the level that we're at. So in terms of what I do differently, there is a huge difference between having a fully sponsored team where I pay for everything, or sponsors that come in through me pay for everything, versus having a team where the players pay for everything. Because if the players are paying for things, you do have a responsibility to make sure that there's fairness. And in competitive sports, there's no such thing as fairness. And the best example would be Drew Bledsoe got hurt and Tom Brady took his job. Drew Bledsoe did nothing wrong. He just signed an $80 million contract, but he got hurt and Brady came into the job. But if the three of us are going to a tournament, the tournament costs $300, we each pay $100, and it's a two-man tournament, and we decide to sit Sam, that's not really fair. Not unless you have a conversation with Sam beforehand where you say, hey, you're not really going to play very much. And Sam decides with that knowledge to pay. But let's be realistic. If there's 100 teams, 3 of them are having that conversation in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have that conversation in advance, you don't know. You get into the first match of the tournament, somebody hurts their leg. You get into the first match of the tournament, somebody's just not getting it done, and you make changes. So you have to manage things differently when players are paying for it versus when sponsors are paying for it. I don't really want to run a team where everything is free. I think that takes something away from it in the divisional level. But I want to run a team like everything is free because I'd love to be able to just do, what is best for the team. And if you sit down with everybody and you say, how do you want to do this? They're all going to say, do what's best for the team, because every one of those motherfuckers thinks that they're one of the best players for the team. Like, there's nobody on the team who thinks they shouldn't play. So when they say, yeah, you should sit somebody, everybody's thinking like, you should sit that guy. But the problem is they're all pointing to the left and it just goes around a fucking circle.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah. So you did mention Cup. Rob, do you want to get into that subject now or later?
Yeah, I mean, we could dive into it now. Like, might as well.
Cup is a horrible, 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 and extraordinarily irresponsible decision.
But you're going to be there.
But you'll be there.
Yeah, I got to be there, right? Because I run a semi-pro team that has aspirations of going pro someday. So how do you skip fucking World Cup, right? But, global pandemic, people dying, no real, way to think that we're going to be safe through this. I'd like to know why we're doing Cup. Are we doing it because it's a service for the players, which is fine, but like, show a fat chick a big bowl of M&Ms and she's going to eat the M&Ms. She shouldn't eat the M&Ms. The M&Ms are not good for her, but she's going to eat them. So show a paintball player World Cup and they're going to be like, yeah, I'll fucking in. Doesn't mean we should give them the opportunity to go to World Cup, because most paintball players are stupid. Like, fat chicks want M&Ms and paintball players want World Cup. But
that's a beautiful analogy, by the way.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I'd like to hear what the NXL's plan is for providing COVID safety. I don't wear a mask in general. I'm not somebody who's going to scream 6 feet if you walk up next to me. But we're talking about bringing people in from around the world, people who are paintball players. So right off the bat, you know that at least 93% of them are ignorant. Most of them have not been wearing masks. And we're all going to have this giant melting pot of breathing on each other. Realistically speaking, it's a bad idea. But once the decision is made, how do you not go? We were talking before. I think Brawl's not going. Somebody said Wolfpack's not going. I respect those teams. Frankly, I respect those teams for having the balls to say we're not going to go. But, if there's some kick-ass player on Brawl or on Wolfpack, why wouldn't I call him? Hey, dude, we're here to win, and you're here to not get sick. So,
No, and that's very fair, and I definitely think that certain teams are in different places because they want different things. Like, to my knowledge, like the Wolfpack guys, of course they want to play with semi-pro. They really want to win, but I don't think all of them have the aspirations. Like, I really want to go pro. Ian has played pro. Straza has played pro. I know. I think one other guy got picked up to play pro, but didn't actually play pro. Yeah, give it a break here a little bit. But like, they're just a team that they're all good enough to play semi-pro. They have Straza, so they have some sort of funding through Battle Creek and stuff. Like, they're one of the few.
They're a tourist team that's good.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, and I absolutely love those guys for it. I mean, they're one of those teams. It's like, we come in, we play. Sometimes we do really good. Sometimes we do really bad. We're not like going to be like some flagship team because we're with a field. Like, Battle Creek is our flag that we fly, and I respect the hell out of them for it. And Brawl is pretty much the same way. Tom Sellers, the sponsorship and everything, 90% sure is through his field because he owns SMP, great field, but like, they could be with any sponsor that they want other than paint, because he gets paint through his field. So that's like, it's really, and it's not even necessarily like you're with us. It's like, we're going to get free cases because I do so much business with you. Right. So that's the only reason why I'm doing it. I always thought that dynamic was very interesting to see between certain teams. It's like, I am a GI team, Imperial team through and through. That I will ride or die and live by the overlords of like whatever my sponsor is, comparatively to these like more independent teams. Just like, yeah, we found a way to get funding. We could do whatever we want. Like I can choose who my paint sponsor is, like with whoever connections. And if you've been around this sport long enough, like I'm assuming you have, like you could choose. I'm assuming you chose to go with Dye. Like you could have chose to go with somebody else if you wanted to, but you already have those connections there. Please correct me if I'm wrong, though.
Well, we did have connections to Dye. I will say that I'm kind of expensive to sponsor. So I don't know. I don't know that I can call anybody and have them say okay, because listen, sponsorship's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But you show up at tournament X and your paint sucks.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? If you're a sponsored team, you're either going to shut the fuck up and shoot paint that sucks and get knocked out, or you're going to get paint from your sponsor. Then you're going to go buy paint from somebody else. You're going to take the paint from somebody else and put it into the cases of the people who sponsor you, and you're going to pretend and hope that nobody pays any attention. And
Dynasty did that.
Dynasty did that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they got flamed really hard for it. I remember that.
In fact, I was the person who gave Dynasty the GI paint. To be fair, Dynasty gave me tickets. I didn't get tickets for them. Somebody came to me and said, "Will you cash these tickets in? We can't be seen doing it." And I said, "Okay." So yeah, that's option one. But if you're self-funded, you don't need sponsors. You can do this. You can say, "Hey Sam, this paint you're selling me fucking sucks. Thank you, but I'm going to go somewhere else. Hey Rob, how much is paint?" Rob's going to say, "Fuck you. You're not one of our teams. Paint is $50 a case." And you're going to say, "Yeah, I don't give a shit because $50 is not really that much money, and I have actual sponsorship. Here you go. Give me 30 cases of paint." By the way, say thank you, you dickhead.
So actually, I wanted to, before we get back on the subject of World Cup, I want to ask you. So I'm not specifically your team, just sponsorships in general. They've definitely evolved over the course of paintball. 100%. They're devolved. They devolved. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
They were sponsorships, and now they're pay us for cheaper gear. What are your thoughts? Do you think that do you think that should have happened? Maybe the sport was at a low point and they really couldn't afford to keep going, or what do you think caused that shift in sponsorships?
It's all a value proposition. It's all a decision on what something's worth. So it really doesn't matter whether the paint companies or gun companies are making money. The question is, what are you providing for them? Now, paintball has this perverse, and when I say paintball, I don't mean just the teams. The teams think this way, but most of the companies think this way too. Like a team that wins is worth something. Why? Why is a team that wins worth something? Take two teams, and team number one wins 5 events a year, but team number 2 has a podcast and refs a tournament series and runs a local clinic series. Who's actually going to sell you more guns? I don't know that there's any indirect ROI that you can apply to gun sales. I don't know that anybody can go back and say how many non-infamous Planet Eclipse guns get sold because of Infamous. You can sit back and say how many Infamous guns are sold, but how many non-infamous Planet Eclipse guns are sold because of Infamous versus how many DSRs are sold by some D3 team that's refereeing a tournament series and shows up every day and says, "Everybody bring your gun. We're going to loan it out to kids and let them see how fucking awesome the DSR is." Mm-hmm. So I think there's always been this, I don't want to say tail wagging the dog. It's just this stupid approach. Like, winners matter. Winners don't fucking matter. Who cares? It's paintball. Who's paying attention? Nobody is paying attention who wins or loses at any division that doesn't already have a decision in their mind about the guns. So who's making decisions about the guns that you want? You have the top end players, and they're all paid whores. They're going to shoot whatever they're sponsored by.
Yeah.
Mid-range players, and they've all fucking decided. If they're in California, they've already decided Dye. And if they're in New England, they've already decided Planet Eclipse. And maybe they can be swayed, but they're going to be swayed in the 1s and the 2s, not a effective piece of the market. And then you have the kids who haven't decided. So like I said, I own a paintball field. I got rid of my airball field because airball sucks and there's a horrible fucking business to be in. But I have an airball field, and we have a village. We've got 3 or 4 villages, and I have little kids who come and play. And those kids haven't decided what they want. So what team gets you in front of those kids? What team gets you in front of those kids with a product you can sell? So I don't want a $2,000 special edition gun because 17-year-old, 13-year-old Billy is not going to fucking buy that. Get me the CZR, the Dice CZR. It's $325, and it could be used as a tournament gun, but you could just well be used in the woods. It's $325 at a $40 Steely tank and a used rotor. And you're into it for $500, and it's a good gun. It's a really good gun. I can get that kid to shoot that gun. But how do I get the kid to shoot the gun? Well, I need to have a team that is talking to those players. That's who's actually going to sell guns. Back in the day, the smart companies, fuck sponsoring a team. Find the guys who work at stores. You work at a store, I'm going to give you a free gun. Because what do people ask you when you work at a store? Well, what do you shoot? Mm-hmm. Well, I shoot a DSR. And you're probably not going to say, I shoot a DSR because they gave it to me for free. I shoot a DSR. Yeah. And you shoot a DSR and you like the DSR, and of course you're going to like the DSR because it's a good gun, is going to sell DSRs out of the stores. So has it, I mean, it's devolved in the sense that there's not really very much sponsorship to be had, especially in 2020 when the supply chain has been completely compromised. Mm-hmm. On that, maybe companies, well, I'd like to say companies are getting a little bit smarter. I'm not sure that they are. The value that exists is in how teams are talking to the potential consumer base, not in how teams are doing on the NXL podcast. Because there is not a single fucking person watching that podcast who doesn't already know what they want to shoot. Not a single. I mean, go to a local field and ask any one of the rental customers when the last time they watched the NXL podcast is, and every fucking one of them is going to say the same thing. The fuck is NXL? And that's the lifeblood of, I mean, the rental customers, the lifeblood of our sport. Mm-hmm. I saw Rocky Newton at World Cup last year. I think it was last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. And I hadn't seen him in years. And like I said, Rocky played a huge role in my coming up through the sport. And he and I were talking, and he said, you know, I'll tell you what looks really bad for the sport. I have not been to a single national event this decade. And I know 90% of the pro players. That's not good. If you can take a fucking decade off and nobody new comes into the game at that level, that's not good.
Noticeably. Nobody notably good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's put that on there.
Chris Rail has these numbers. I don't. But I'll bet the average age of professional teams is going up and up and up.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
Going up because the existing players are getting older and older, and nobody new is coming in. So where do we go with this? What ends up happening? You know, we need to make a fundamental change in paintball. And COVID was a great excuse. Necessity is the mother of invention. Across the world in paintball, Mike Goodman from P&L Paintball talks about this online. CO2 tanks sell for $24. CO2 tanks should wholesale for $24, and they should retail for $50. Why not? We haven't. One, nobody who's buying a CO2 tank knows any better, and two, we have a fucking excuse. You know, there's a global pandemic. Go look at online. There's dead bodies all over the streets of China. And that's where all the tanks are coming from. So let's raise the prices. Let's not just make the retail stores and the retail fields healthy. Let's make the manufacturers healthy. We're not doing that, but that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be doing at a tournament level. There's no reason at all that every single case of tournament paintball has not gone up by $10 a case. Can't afford it? Oh, we're sorry. We're really going to miss you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. And I guess the biggest thing that I don't like about it is that there's not as much competition at the paint vendors from what I've heard. I heard there used to be way more paint vendors. You could go to the big guys, you could go to the small guys. Like how Mike Hinman hasn't been like allowed to go sell APX paint at events is shocking to me.
Is he not allowed, or do you not want to pay for the sponsorship?
I forgot what he said. We talked to him earlier.
I think he said he hasn't been invited.
Yeah, he hasn't been invited.
Because a lot of them, they and this is limited knowledge, but from what I know about it, they do have like a set, these are the guys that are allowed to do this, they have to pay this much. And I think Mike hasn't even been one of the ones that have been even asked if he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And he's the only one in the US.
No, it's ProShar, GI, HK. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, it used to be Valken too, but ever since the whole thing with Damien.
ProShar made Valken's tournament paint, if you didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and HK was made by APX and stuff. Like,
yeah, right. But yeah, still, like APX, I hear Recoil coming out of Mexico is really good. I hear Tomahawk is pretty solid over in Europe. I didn't get to shoot it because I shot ProShar when I was over there. But like, there's a lot more paint companies, and I think the competition of paint at events would be better, so that like the prices can fluctuate. Like, yeah, the bigger guys, they might have a little bit more expensive, but like they would be more consistently better. Potentially. I don't know.
How many teams roll into World Cup with a lot of cash and get to choose the paint they're going to shoot?
Like none.
Yeah, a lot of them are sponsored.
Nobody does, and that's something that I try to promote for. So I'm a small business owner, Kinetic Paintball. I pride myself on trying to bring something different to my teams. Like, part of our value proposition for NXL teams is that if the full team is sponsored, you guys get free media for the season. We're a small company. We only make pants right now, but I can say that if you come with us and our product is a little bit more expensive, you'll have the most technological forward pant out there, because we put crazy amount of R&D into it, and it's nuts what my business partner has found. And we're actually dropping new pants soon. But two, I can now say that if you're sponsored with this, I'm giving you $1,250 worth of value right off the top, because I'm going to be shooting pictures for you all for five events.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like I'm doing what I can, and it goes back to just like, what is the value prop? It's like that's our value prop, and like we want to bring our sponsor teams into the process of trying out prototype gear and helping us build out the rest of our products. That I'll just say it, like a lot of companies they've done R&D, but like shit falls apart. Like, if you've done so much R&D, like why are things falling apart? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. If I'm going to be spending over $100 on a pair of pants, like it shouldn't be falling apart like at the first practice. And I've heard that multiple times from a variety of companies.
There's a kid in the Hurricanes. I was on the same team with him on the P-Mob. He was also on the Bandits with me. And this motherfucker blows through 4 packs a year. Now, for a lot of the time, that was a GI pack. He's not been with the Hurricanes last year, so I haven't seen him spend a full season with the GI pack. With the dye pack. That's not to say that dye packs are better. Obviously, people are playing less now than they used to. But yeah, he blows through tons of packs every year. And like you said, if you're doing R&D, why start? And the answer is simple. Why would you make a product that's designed to last 3 years and only last 2? So you can sell more of them.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, I've talked to some of the guys that play on newbies, and just like, yeah, like we get our when they were with HK a couple of years ago, I think they're back with them now. It's like, yeah, we'd get pants, and just like
Jesus.
And it's like, oh yeah, they'd rip before every event. I'd get a new pair of pants every event. And like I almost have to imagine that HK just builds it into their business model, that there's like, yeah, I only need you to buy it once, and I could basically give you like 6 pairs for free over the course of the season.
Here's an HK story, a John Christ HK story.
John Christ HK story.
So Lift was staged at some tournament. They found like an off-field staging area for themselves, right behind the HK tent.
Yeah.
They're sitting there, and all of a sudden, over the side of the tent, over this, like the wall that separates them from HK, flies a pair of shoes. One of the guys grabs the shoes and goes to HK and says, yeah, these are ripped. So HK says, well, here's a new pair of shoes. Guy goes back to sit down with the rest of his buddies at Lift. Pair of shoes flies over the fence. Guy picks him up and says, hey, these are ripped. He goes over to HK and he says, my shoes are ripped. And HK gives him a new pair of shoes. He goes back to the staging area at Lift, and lo and behold, the pair of shoes flies over the fucking fence. Every single player on Lift gets a new pair of HK shoes before HK thinks to themselves, every fucking pair that's coming in has the same rip on the left shoe. Maybe this is the same pair of shoes. And they throw one pair of shoe over the fence.
That's amazing. But yeah, like
I mean,
for something like that, like it blows my mind that I mean, I guess it's different because like we went into this like the original thought was my business partner was like, I'm really fed up with everything that the industry is putting out. I don't like it. I think that somebody that has zero textile experience and that is a lawyer is like, I could put in the time to do research and I could build a better product. And for the most part, like still have people that still have the prototype pair of pants that he has hand sewn himself from 4 years ago still intact.
Hand sewn, really?
Hand sewn. I mean, the dude is a wizard in his basement.
Did you
don't
say
know.
finger?
Yeah, he's a wizard. He's a wizard with fabrics.
No?
I don't understand how he does it.
That sounds right.
I can literally after this I will show you the pack that he's hand sewn.
Is he married?
He's married.
Really? To a guy?
To a woman who with 2 kids now.
So
she has a doctorate.
This is the lawyer who knows how to hand sew a pair of pants, and you're alleging that he's also married to a woman. Tanya's the best. I love Tanya. And Isla and Nico, I will show you after this. This is great. But yeah,
when you're finished, we should reel it back.
We'll reel it back in. But what I'm saying is like it's like how like
homophobic.
What? What's up?
I see. Reel it back. Be less homophobic. Sorry.
No. Reel it back to World Cup, which was the actual question. But after Rob.
But yeah, it's like it blows my mind how like some of these companies will just like they just make stuff to make stuff, and like I can't tell you how many times Pakistani like manufacturers come up to us, we can make you your joggers. It's like, oh, so these are like Dizana pants or like HK pants. It's like it hurts. It really hurts, and that like some people will be fine with buying things that rip super easily, and they'll have to buy it 4 or 5 times instead of just like, I'm just gonna pay for something once and now I'm good for the next like 3 years.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a mentality thing. But going back to World Cup, like I guess like when it comes to sponsorships and everything, like from what I've heard, like I've had the conversations with Brett Messer, who used to play in the band to play for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he helped pay for some of the things with his business and help sponsor the team a little bit. Don't know if that's true or not, but like now, like really what sponsorship is, it's like it's getting cash. It's not necessarily as much as getting free gear. Like if you really want to sponsor a team, it's like I need cash.
I've always looked at paintball as a sponsorship in terms of real cash value. Yeah. So if I get guns, I get jerseys, I get pants, I get packs, I get masks, I get hoppers for free, that's great. But I need to pay entrance, I need to pay for paint, I need to pay for hotel, I need to pay for rental car. So if you were to give me all of my gear free, that's great, but there's zero real cash value. I can't take the guns that I'm giving to my players and pay for my hotel. And I can survive without your free guns because, we're paintball players. We all own guns. Excuse me. But I can't survive without hotel because the players probably won't perform well after the 3rd day of sleeping in a rental car.
Yeah.
So, what is the real cash value of a sponsorship? And you need to get creative with that. Let's say hypothetically that Dye or Planet or Field One decided to give your team free guns. Do you give those free guns to your players, or do you sell those free guns to your players and then turn that money around and use that to pay for the hotel and the rental car and everything else? But yeah, free stuff is awesome, but unless it takes a number that's on your budget and reduces that number, it's fun, and that's all it is. And the reality is fun sucks because now I'm obligated. Like I can't wear an Exalt cap because I have a company other than Exalt sponsorship that gave me free caps. Fucking cares about free caps. Fucking cares about the commodities. Like give me something that's going to reduce my cost of playing, or don't bother me with something that will ultimately restrict my freedoms.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's very fair. And especially like if you're going to an event, like having a company is like, we'll call GI is like your paint's free. It's like, well, boom, there you go. Like I will gladly shoot your
Free
paint,
paint
and
is
I've got free paint. Free paint cuts down my costs. You know what I mean? Especially at the higher level, like you guys shoot
Then you
out
go
a lot more paint.
rent like a truck at whatever tournament you're at, and you fill it with cases of free paint, and you drive it back home, and now you got free practices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those you can probably steal like 200-300 free cases of paint. Maybe not 200-300.
You can definitely steal a bunch of cases. I mean, that's essentially what I did when I was at Temple University. We had our campus recreation. They would pay for our nationals paint. So we're done with the day. Sold it to Ralph boys when they were still like a D3 or D4. It's just like, we're shooting fresh paint off the truck the next day. Like, we don't have to pay for it. Absolutely. Any of the money like that goes to dinner like that night. So yeah, it definitely comes down to real cash value and cost. I mean, with Cup, like, you're gonna bring your team down. Like, have you had the conversation with your guys yet? I know that Cup really just got announced today, but like, are they all excited for it, or like, has anybody really spoken up and just like, I want to make the smart decision and not potentially put myself like at risk.
One of the players has said that because of family health concerns, he's not going to go. A second player has said that he is unsure. He needs to talk to his boss, but if his boss is going to make him quarantine when he gets back home, then he can't go. Everybody else has said yes, but like, they're all dumbasses, right? Like, nobody's actually paying attention to what this means. Coaching staff is all basically on board. I'm mostly on board. I mean, we'll be there, but yeah, only one of my players has raised his hand and said definitively I'm out. To be fair, I told my guys that I need to know by September 26th. That was my drop dead. And I said that well before the NXL announced anything. But if we're going to play and I need to bring in players, I want to know in enough time to bring them in.
Yeah.
And if I'm not going to play, I want the guys of mine who want to play to have an opportunity to find other teams. At this point, with the number of people who've already said that they're playing, we'll probably play. Now, the proof is in the pudding. When I show up to practice on Sunday and I tell everybody to give me $200 towards a hotel or a rental house, then we'll see who actually is, I'm 100% in. Do you have money? No. Okay, so you're not fucking in, like, you loser. We'll see how many people actually show up with money to pay for rental cars and houses and shit.
So I have a question for you, and this is about Cup in this season overall in general. Do you think they're going to relegate any teams this year, or is it just a wash?
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Just a wash?
I don't think so. Do I think that there will be a change in the Pro Division? Yes, there's always a change in the Pro Division. Do I think that will come through the antiquated and largely ineffective method of promoting and relegating teams? No. Because, like, why? Why would you go through promotion and relegation? You can just fucking merge with a team for, what, $2,000 and a $50 coupon for TGI Fridays?
So, I mean, with those teams that merge, they didn't come in dead last. They did. Yeah. I mean, they did decently well. You cannot deny the fact they won some games. They didn't come in.
Who did well?
I said decent. They didn't go 0-4.
What was Boom ranked?
While you're looking up what Boom was ranked, Brian Catania had some questions for you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask or do you want Rob to ask? Either way, it's not going to be good.
Brian wants to know what paintball was like in 1940.
Boom was ranked 16th. Brian needs to gain some fucking weight.
He does. He really does. He
Boom
does.
Was 16th place. What was the other team that merged out?
I think Rob was talking about the semi-pro teams weren't doing that bad that merged with pro.
Yeah.
I think that's what Rob means.
Yes, yeah. So Columbus level didn't do bad. And Columbus level.
The 5th ranked team? The 5th ranked fucking semi-pro team. Listen to yourself. And
but they played pro.
The number 5 semi-pro team gets to play pro.
I don't think it's right.
No,
I'm not saying.
I'm glad that you don't think it's right. I'm going to go a step further and say it's clearly not fucking right. Let me read you the scores here. Columbus LVL. They took second. That was good. That was in the first event. Then seventh, then second again, then fucking 14th twice. And they merged pro. Come on. What was the other team? Energy? Where's Energy?
I don't think they did that well that season.
There they are. Energy is ranked 12th. Fucking 12th.
I didn't even know that they were ranked that bad. Jesus.
I thought they were like 6th or 7th.
Which means they made Sunday and 9th. They didn't make Sunday and 19th. There were 18 fucking semi-pro teams better than them. Okay, 19th again. Oh, wow, yeah. And 15th. And this is what we call pro. That's paintball. Paintball has 20 pro teams, 8 of which deserve to be called pro. The other 12 should be buying the first 8 teams to paint.
I will say LVL did have a pretty good showing. Was it LVL or Energy that had a good showing in Vegas?
LVL. They did have a good showing. They did have a good showing at Vegas. That's all I was saying is that they had a good showing at Vegas.
Aftermath in Vegas last year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Last year.
Yeah, but we don't have a good reference point for this year because there's only 2 events. So we can't tell if they're going to do bad or not.
But whether or not they do well, how do we call ourselves a pro team if we allow a team that was 10 spots away from relegation to buy their way into pro? Make a decision. Are we a pro league? In which case, no. Or are we just who the fuck has the biggest dick? Or it's actually not the biggest dick, the biggest wallet and the smallest dick, and can buy their way in. In which case, I mean, that's what this is, right? Like,
yeah,
we have 20 pro teams. How many of those pro teams? Let's think about this. Okay, looking at last year, Scottsdale Elevation, 18th, 20th, 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 and 20th. I'm sure they're nice guys. Kings, 2019, 16, 16, 15. Yeah. Outlaws, 19, 15, 15, 13, 18. PC Katana, at least they had the good sense to drop. Boom. Aftermath, 15th ranked pro team. Like, how do you want professional paintball to be respectable if we make these decisions? There was a money play on behalf of the NXL. Bart and Sarge, if you watch this podcast, rather than spend lots of money on something stupid like fucking pedicures for your players or a fucking motorcycle, kick half the fucking pro teams out of pro and make pro. This is a crazy fucking idea. Sit down. I'll wait for you to sit. You kidding? Make pro fucking elite, you asshole. Make pro elite. Pro's not elite. I will bet my left testicle that the Hurricanes, who have not practiced since March, can beat 5 of the teams that are playing pro today.
Ooh. How does someone set up a event where they have to play 5 against 5 of the teams? I want to see if he gets his testicle or not, because
not really excited about that after I said it. But
this is on video being saved. So
yeah, but no, I definitely agree. It's not elite.
It's obvious.
It is, and it hurts, and especially if you'll see. We had this conversation with him, and if the semi-pro field is getting a larger crowd, is the semi-pro field is getting a larger crowd for a match than a pro match, there's an issue. Mm-hmm. Like there's got to be an issue. When 2018 Mutiny versus Aftermath, there was always larger crowds, and even bringing pro players over to watch this match than watching the pro field.
But to be fair, it's free.
Yes, that is true.
When it was free to watch pro, they were stacked pro fields, pro stands.
True. I also I have this tough time, and especially because like over the past year, like I befriended Mark Johnson a little bit. Great guy. Like he's seen pro and like
still knows how to play.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. But like his team took semi-pro and ran it like a pro team, and they earned it. And if I was anybody on that team, I would be heated to see that some of these other teams are coming up to pro and not earning it. And like they merged. Yeah.
So after you're done,
it,
I just want to bring up some of the Brian questions before we get into
bring up the Brian
Robert's question stuff. Okay, so Brian has a few more questions for you. What's it like being the one senior citizen in the U.S. who understands technology?
I don't understand technology.
Do you appreciate ShopRite giving you your own hour to shop during COVID time?
Brian, but he's going to physically see me.
I have to ask, how do you know Brian? Because he lives by me in New Jersey.
Brian is my pod bitch.
That's the best answer. That is the best answer.
True. Brian is my pod bitch. Brian runs my pods.
I hope he becomes a ref for that XL.
Brian is an awesome pod bitch. We were in, I think it was Dallas last year. And we walked into the tournament with like 1.5 pod bags full of pods. At the end of the first day, we had 3 pod bags full of pods. And at some point in the second day, I had to say to him, stop stealing pods. I have no way to get these home. I had like 3 garbage bags full of pod bags. Like, I have no way to get these home. Stop stealing pods. Brian is an excellent pod bitch. And I'm sure he's good at other stuff too.
I want him to grow as a ref because he's one of the few people that like knows like he knows the rule book. There's no.
Did you see his most recent rule cheat sheet?
I mean, I saw yours.
That was my rule fucking cheat sheet.
I know. I had the discussion with him. Which thank you for posting that in OPS. Absolutely, I think it needs to get shared around.
I got shit on for posting that.
That's absurd. I'm sorry. That is absurd. I know that Robert Welch, he's a ref that he's going to start doing like some tournament ref trainings pretty soon. But
yeah, there's 2 serious questions, one from Brian, one from Robert, and then we can get into what you just said. Yeah. So the last one with Brian, because it should be simple. He did say, didn't LVL beat the Canes at World Cup 2019?
I have no recollection of that.
So the second one, which is by Robert, which is an actual serious question. He said, 7-man national league. Do you think it's possible, or should leagues only host regional style like the HK Pro Tour?
I'm not in favor of multiple national leagues. I don't think there's enough demand for it, and I think it's bad for paintball.
Okay. I mean, it used to be like that, and then one league fizzled out. Like, right. I mean, we already saw it.
It was often like that, but then one league always fizzled out. Wouldn't it be awesome if paintball could all – the difference in Democrats and Republicans. One Democrat wins the election, and Bernie Sanders, who was robbed of the nomination, says, yeah, we kind of support fucking Hillary. On the Republican side, whoever loses endorses the winner. Wouldn't it be great if paintball could endorse the winner and try to put our best foot forward rather than always backbiting ourselves and saying, what about 7-man? What about 3-man? What about 10-man? What about mech tournaments? Paintball's not good at that. If we ever want to be more than that weird fucking thing that your nephew in Tennessee does, we need to all get behind one motion, and we're not right now.
Yeah, I agree with that because I mean, I personally want the penalty box back. Like I missed that.
Penalty box was awesome.
It was.
You see people ultimately just take the ultimate bitch move and stick their gun out because they're sick. 5 people is fucking staring down at them, waiting to blast them to shit.
Yeah. I thought it's a totally different element to the game, and if you're able to bring your dead body back out of the box, like. That's a huge swing.
How many
I played for that.
Games just flip because the asshole on the live team wasn't paying attention to the dead person clock and walked into some motherfucker coming out and gunning him down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have.
I'm starting to slur.
Don't worry. We're here with you. We're here.
A testament to how good of a pod bitch Brian is. John Christ, we play you every event. We never have any fucking pods after.
Yeah. Well done, Brian. Keep doing what you're doing.
Doing the Lord's work.
He is doing the Lord's work.
Brian, when I first found Brian, it was some Facebook post. It was like, I'll run pods. I will wear a ridiculous outfit. I will piss off the other team. Brian actually came up to me once and was like, I can go to the other team's pod bitch into a penalty if you want me to. What? It was like, I can goad him into a penalty. If you want, I'll get the other team's pod bitch a penalty. It's okay.
Ain't that serious?
Honestly. But he was like, no, Brian, listen, if I ran a pro team and I had $1 billion sponsorship, Brian would be higher paid than most of my players. What he does is specialized. I can find fucking players. Like, what does J-Rab cost? $30,000? Fuck. But there's a dozen J-Rab. There's only one Brian Catania.
And then follow up, suck balls, Brian.
What?
Follow up to from Christ, suck balls, Brian.
No, that's great. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, like, as we talk about Brian, just like the smallest thing of having somebody run pods for you and like making sure that like that as a job is covered off and it's not necessarily a player, like that's a huge thing. It's tough, and I feel like, and going back to the community aspect, like I feel like that's how a lot of people meet new people. Like it's like, hey, dude, like I'm looking to make a couple extra dollars really quickly, like $20 a match, like, and I'll run pods, so none of your guys have to do it. And like friendships are made that way. People can now talk to higher divisional teams and try to get a scrimmage out of them, like at an event. You know what I mean? Like it brings it back to, at the end of the day, we're all hanging out. Like, and I just want to hang out with some cool people.
Will we be in the future hanging out?
I hope that you and I can hang out when the next time that we see each other in person. I absolutely do.
Sure, but on a systemic level, like I don't know what paintball looks like at World Cup. And let's be realistic. We're not talking World Cup. It's World Cup. It's Vegas next year. It's Event 2 next year.
Yeah,
that's the time frame we're looking at, and who knows what this shit looks like. COVID is like, because it's going to get cold, and that's when viruses spike.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And do you think that, I guess, all these regional leagues having events? I mean, what's it called? WC had like 100 teams or something. MVPS is having like between like 70 and 80 teams an event down in Florida. Like, do you think that this is potentially hurting paintball, and like, because we're showcasing is like we can run events and we could do it safely, but in the long run, like it's not doing justice to the sport?
Who gives a shit about whether it's doing justice to the sport? Of course it's not. Like, we're a bunch of assholes who don't follow the rules. We're all going to, congeal, come together in Orlando. We're all going to get sick, and a couple of people are going to die. Like, I think World Cup, I'm going to be there. My team's going to be there. But how do you argue that it's not a bad idea?
You really can't. Hopefully they have some system in place that comes out throughout the next few weeks. I don't think there's anything that can fully protect the players, but we'll see. What? There isn't. There's nothing.
Everybody who goes is making the decision to take a risk. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But at least own it. Make sure people know what they're doing. Florida is a shit show. Paintball is a shit show. And we're going to put the shit show of paintball within the shit show of Florida and hope that nobody gets sick. Hope that nobody dies. You can argue that you don't think this thing is real. And frankly, I'm kind of in that camp. I don't know that this is real, but I know that Tim Montressor was in a lot better shape than I am, and Tim died. So it can't be entirely made up. So here's the question: why are we doing the World Cup? Why are we doing World Cup?
I think it's because some people need it.
What's that?
I think it's like some people need it. Some people are saying is like, why is it not possible when the MVPS is happening down in Florida or the SPL? You know what I mean? Like what's I think it's because it's so tangible.
You're not pulling teams in from across the country. Here's a question. Is World Cup happening because Bart and Sarge have $1 million toys, $1 million race cars that they haven't been allowed to race once this year? And they really, really want to see how fast the race cars can go? That's a stupid fucking reason to hold World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I like the analogy, and I think it's good, especially because they are owners of the league and they have top premier teams. I mean, I think what is kind of going on with these Go Sports like pro invitational events are interesting, and I think it's a good idea that it still allows pro players to play and compete, but it minimizes the amount of I guess interaction with other people. So I really believe that when the first one happened, that like they could have done more with it. They could have done like when they were thinking about doing the whole regional thing, I was really hopeful for it, and that it would be like, all right, guys, we're doing regional. It's like just pro players. They're the only ones allowed to the field that day. Like nobody could come in. Like we're going to be running this pro matches so that we can still have the pro circuit. We'll try to get a webcast, even if it's like a free like Twitch or Facebook Live webcast. Like because for the most part, anybody that watches the webcast, like you watch paintball. Like you already know paintball. Like you don't necessarily having a commentator is nice and it brings the production value, but you can understand what's going on without it. And like you can follow the matches as long as there's a scoreboard. So I have a tough time with saying that like this is a good move, and I think that this should have ran with the regional events or like doing these invitationals a little bit better. Like there's the Kentucky one. Not all the pro teams were there. Only some. It looks like more of like towards the bottom, middle or bottom. They're having the Texas Showdown, which is like premier teams for the most part, except for like Impact, which I'm honestly surprised that Impact didn't show up with the teams that are going to the Texas one. And now they're having the one in Ohio, which is like those middle of the pack towards the lower of the bottom, just based on seeding pro teams. So like it's super interesting to me. Like Damage isn't playing anything.
I'm not paying enough attention. Are you saying there's a tournament for pro teams that just aren't the good pro teams?
Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not the ones at the top. I think why
are they called pro?
Go on, Rob.
So if you are a team that you shouldn't be calling yourself pro. You're paying money because you got a small penis, and that's it, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I know some of these guys, and I think that they have the ability to move up. Absolutely, I think
moving up is a conversation about semi-pro moving to pro. It's not pro moving up in pro. If you're not pro, you shouldn't be pro.
Yeah,
I mean, show me the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, or Major League
Soccer
Dolphins that loses to a college team.
The Dolphins.
Other than the Dolphins and the Jets, they don't exist. Other than the Dolphins and Jets, they don't exist.
Yeah. No.
Pro paintball team that is 100% guaranteed, or show me the team that's not 100% guaranteed to beat a semi-pro team. How many of the pro teams that exist today would you bet your life could beat the Bears?
Oof. Like real bears?
What, are you asking about like actual Bears or like the team, Rob?
No, the team, like the actual Bears. Like, so that was a really good team.
The Brooklyn Bears that are registered in the TXSL with Frank and with Robbie.
That's a really good team. That is a very solid team. They've won many like semi-pro events together.
Why are we calling teams pro if they can't even beat non-fucking existent semi-pro teams? Non-existent because this isn't even a real team.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's like saying the Red Sox. Could the Red Sox beat the BC team? Oh wait, no. Could the Red Sox beat a team of BC parents and kids, and sometimes maybe mothers? I'd fucking hope so.
Yeah, it's their job.
Yeah. No, you make a fair point. You absolutely make a fair point. I mean, I think it's a systemic issue, and I did really like the point in time of paintball that there was like the champions and challengers division. I do think that those out of the 20 teams, like those bottom 10 teams, I do think they should be recognized as being better than your average semi-pro player. I do believe that.
Are they though?
They had to get there somehow. A lot of them were brought up.
They got there because of the rules.
Yeah.
By the way, when you say they had to get there somehow, what's the somehow? Well, I don't know. I had fucking $15,000 to merge with the team.
Besides the select 2 teams, the rest of them had to. Besides the year that they made it 20 instead of 15 or whatever it was. Besides that year.
So beside the year that they went from 15 to 20, and beside the merging aspect, so we're going back 7 fucking teams, 7 out of 20. Okay, yeah. So besides that,
but they still were top of not the 2 merges, but the other ones they went in a row. The only team that did
expansion.
Yeah,
so
besides
30% of the pro division.
But 2 of those people deserved it. The only one that didn't get to go up was Distortion. We have to admit that. They're only 2 of the teams
that went up.
Distortion was the only team in that merger that didn't go because they broke up. But there were still top 2 teams that went up there because of the rules. But they were top of the entire division. The rest of them probably didn't deserve. But Distortion and the other 2 teams, I don't even remember what they 2 are, so don't even pull me. But they deserved it. And TMG has been.
Why do they deserve it? What does deserve mean?
They beat everyone else in semi-pro. They were first. They were first and second. I think Distortion was second.
He's played 7, man. Oh, hold on.
He's pulling up on APBA. This is great.
I don't even know if it's going to come up.
When the Hurricanes played pro, we would sometimes practice locally at Maynard with other teams.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and then, one of these other teams would beat us. And my guys would always want a rematch. And the other team would always like, yeah, we'll fucking play you again. I used to tell them, like, it's a fucking mistake for you to play us again because you didn't beat us. You surprised us. And now we're pissed off. And we're going to fucking myrtleize you. Nobody ever listened. You got these teams that they're in pro. They don't really deserve to be in pro. They got lucky. Can a pro team should never, ever, 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 ever lose to a non-pro team. A pro team should be able to go onto the field and say, 3 of us are going to play lefty and the other 2 are going to have our eyes closed and still beat a semi-pro team. How many teams playing pro can say that?
Not many.
Not very many.
8. We have 8 pro teams and 12 teams that are paying extra money to call themselves pro. What do we have? We have a shit pro division.
Yeah.
We have a shit pro division.
So let me ask you this then. If you could change the structure, how would you change it?
Cut 12 pro teams.
And just put them in semi-pro, that's it?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not allowed to ban them forever for fucking pretending, champions division and do pro and champion at the end of the year, swap 2 up, swap 2 down.
Like it used to be?
Yeah.
mean, that didn't die because it didn't work. That died because sponsors didn't like it. How do I invest in this team if I don't know that they're going to be pro forever? Because they were fucking small-minded and they keep thinking that pro matters. How does pro matter? Half of these pro teams are fucking dog shit. They suck. Pro matters if you can reach the players that are buying gear. And these teams aren't. And also, so
it's the top 8 that are doing it. I mean,
top 8 that have value in terms of people watching the podcast and saying, I want to be like him.
Yeah. I want to be Ryan Greenspan. I want to be Nick Slowiak. You know what I mean? Like they're
2020 NXL champs.
2020 NXL champs. But yeah, like it's tough. It's tough. And I think that's a harsh reality that a lot of people don't like to say. And I definitely believe that like the Tauntauns, like how they played semi-pro as Camp Factory blows my mind. Like I don't know how they did it. And I'm assuming it's because they took one event off last year and they were like still only like 2 or 3 points behind getting that pro spot.
They kicked our ass pretty good.
They're good.
I remember that one.
They are good. There's no denying it.
They're good. They're pro. Tauntauns, ever since I started paintball 10 years ago, they have been my favorite European pro team. And that is because of that video on YouTube where they came back and won in like 3 points in like 2 minutes, something like that. Axel
is so good.
He's so good. It's
and he's
disgusting.
A good person. So like chatting with him afterwards, during the match, I wanted to ask him for an autograph. And that's when I intellectually knew, emotionally knew this shit's not going well for us, is when I'm thinking about asking one of the opposing team's players to sign a jersey for me. He is so fucking good. And he's like a nice dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's really nice.
I want to hate you if you're on the other team. And I can't. Although, I mean, he's French, so there's that.
Super nice.
I mean, I don't know if you heard about this. The other day, Thursday, like on Tuesday, the entire French military was completely disabled because somebody blew up. No shit. Somebody blew up the white flag factory, and without white flags to surrender, the French military just doesn't know what the fuck to do. The entire French immobilized.
That's amazing. That's hilarious.
So I actually, I know we are kind of winding down, but we did just go into a subject not very many people have talked about: the rules on no more European and NXL pro teams. Like they can't play both as a pro team.
Yeah.
That's an NXL rule because they're afraid of Americans. And my only thing is, if that's how you feel, that's fine. But write the fucking rule in German because that's what you'd be fucking speaking if it wasn't for us, asshole.
He's definitely drunk.
But yeah,
I just think that's dumb, you know?
I think it's dumb too. And like, I understand that like the super team of Golden State Kings, like that was awesome to watch. And like, I'm very happy that Matt Angles hooked it up for me and gave me a pro pass. And even though in Amsterdam, I took like 4 pictures, but like nonetheless, to be able to get a picture like that of people playing together, like it doesn't happen. And it makes me miss what the MPPL used to do when they did the All-Star game. You had the East Coast versus the West Coast. Like, I feel like that they're trying to do so much with all the pro teams where like they could do something cool and like have an All-Star game. Like why did that die off? Like,
wasn't it supposed to be like?
Didn't take it seriously.
I mean, NFL players in the Pro Bowl don't take it seriously. It's not supposed to be like something super serious.
They don't take it seriously, but they don't shoot themselves in the mask point blank.
Yeah, they also get millions of dollars to play that Pro Bowl. So they don't take it seriously, but they're walking away with a nice paycheck that they don't care.
Fair enough. But yeah, like I feel like there's definitely so many things that like we can do to make pro feel like pro. Having a saturated pro league, no. Doing something like an all-star game, yeah. I think there's definitely a bunch of other things that we could be doing, like how the NBA they have their all-star game, but they also have like the skills thing, like that could be done at Cup, like without a doubt. Like I think that would be super interesting, especially since they do it for like BKI. Like some of those kids that do it, like do those drills, like they're good. Like Jackson Frey, who plays for Blast Camp, like that kid is nasty. Like he is very good, and like he did the BKI thing, and he was like number 1 or like number 2, and like now he plays semi-pro with Blast Camp. They took like 5th or something in Vegas.
Wouldn't it be interesting to watch Bernaccia, who is a seasoned pro with gray hair, compete in a skills challenge against some of these up-and-coming kids?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see him set the bar.
Honestly, this Cup is the best time to do something like that because it's so few fields and things like that. There's not as much going on. And if the people that are going, if they could easily set up something like that where they have that little skills challenge, because they don't need 4 days of 13-hour days anymore. There's 6 fields plus pro or without. I don't know if it's plus pro, but it's 6 fields, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think if they were to do something like that, which I mean, it's probably way too late in discussions and stuff like that, but they'd just supposed to be the one to start doing something like that. Get that out there, and the people want to see it in all of them.
Yeah, like I'd love to see all that stuff. Like just to compete to see how everybody ranks up. You know what I mean? Now you have the bar. And like, because really the bar hasn't been set. It's like, what does it mean from a skills and a fundamental point of view? What is the bar? How is your snap shooting, like diving the snake and doing like all these different drills? Like nobody knows really what the bar is other than the kids that went to the BKI camps. Like how good is pro? You know what I mean? I think like the Russians, like that's how they do it for their like multiple teams or whatever. It's like you have to be able to do like it's like 30 snapshots in like 40 seconds and get it on target. And like that's what makes you like Russian Legion first line. Like they scientifically set the bar. And it's so weird. What?
The Russian Legion is a different beast than
They're a different breed, man.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't compare someone with a football field for a practice field to American paintball.
But what I'm saying is that like they've gone through the process, and I was I forgot who I was listening to. Is like when Russian Legion was bad, they were bad because it was all the new blood coming in. They were working on fundamentals, and they were getting down this base layer of like how you play paintball, and then we'll teach you the mentality. And as soon as like they had that fundamentals, they know how to run and gun, they know how to do all this basic stuff, they were starting to get better. And then as soon as that, after that 1 or 2 seasons, like we're going to teach you how to like work together as a unit and play. That's when they started shit stomping on people. And you've seen it over the years. They do good, they do bad, then they do good, they do bad. And it's because players are rotating in and out, and it's that they're training new blood. And it's crazy how they have it down to a science. They're not picking off of superstars. They're not doing all this other stuff. They are literally training people just like how the AC camp did it. They're taking kids and they are bringing them to the highest level because they know how to do it based on from a training perspective as well as just like from a science perspective that this is what you need to get to in order to be good at pro. I'm so happy that you're taking out another bottle. What are you drinking?
This is Pikes Creek Canadian whiskey.
Nice.
Rum barrels.
I've been on a serious Scotch kick because I've been getting gifted bottles of like Macallan and Glenfiddich, and it's been bad. Sam has been online with me playing video games, and it's
if Rob's drunk, don't even talk to him.
It's so bad.
Don't even talk. He won't remember what happens tomorrow. We'll talk. It'll be like 6 hours. 6 hour span talking to him. Next day, he had no clue we were even playing for 6 hours. He has no clue. He doesn't even know he's awake right now. Don't talk to Rob if he's drunk. Questions for you though.
Yes.
Jonathan wants to know if they're going to be seeing the Hurricanes at TSXL.
Jonathan, who?
Roland. Yeah. Waldo. Just putting you on the spot right now.
Sunday. That's when you ask the guys.
All right.
We were going to go, and then they announced that we were going to have the COVID World Cup. And now I just have to ask the guys whether they want to do 2 tournaments or 1.
Ask Jeff about his lamp obsession.
Brian said that?
Yep.
Oh, you already know.
He already knows.
You'd have a lot of lamps. So obviously we're winding down. I don't know if there's any more questions you have, Rob, or any questions in the chat that you saw that I might miss.
I think that's like I really don't have any more questions. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I really wanted to ask
on World Cup being a bad fucking idea.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Yeah,
and that's it. Yeah, World Cup.
So I think a good recap is World Cup is a terrible idea and very irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
And that pro division is super saturated and should be max 10 teams.
Okay.
Max.
So pro division cannot be called pro division. It has to be called pro division because at least half of the teams suck.
Yeah.
They suck.
In comparison to the rest of pro division.
In comparison to the legacy of pros.
Okay. I will agree with that. I won't say that they suck. I will say in comparison to the legacy of pros, they suck. I'll definitely agree with that.
I already know that Jeff disagrees with you.
What's that?
I already know that Jeff disagrees with Rob on it.
Like back in the day, a pro team would not. If Bob Long's Ironmen played 1,000,000 games, an infinity games against non-pro teams, they'd lose 2. That's just not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Like we have promoted amateur to pro and we're packaging it and it's gonna work great with the fucking assholes on ESPN who watch us. But the assholes on ESPN, they don't really want to watch us. They had the opportunity and they fucking turned us down already. So
for cornhole.
What's that?
For cornhole.
Yeah, for cornhole. We're fucking like for bullshit. So we have a pro division that we're calling pro because we have very, very small penises. And
he's right.
And you've been pro. And like and you can say this because like you had a team in pro when it was not 20 teams.
Yeah, you're not just blowing smoke.
I had a team in pro when you had to have a big penis for pro. But now you don't.
So that ruled you out though.
So
but
it's junk. I can say whatever I want. I think we've got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah. But no, I think this has been a really good discussion, and I think like I feel like you're one of the very few people you've been around long enough. You're not afraid to say what you want to say, and you could have an honest conversation. Like, this is the reality of paintball. This is it. Like I've been there. I've done that. I know what I'm talking about. I don't have to worry about contracts or anything saying that like I need to like gas up my sponsors or whatever. Like I could tell it how it is because I have the freedoms to do that, and I have the utmost respect for you for putting yourself in a position that you can do that because I've seen it with other people. Just like, dude, like I know the gear that you're wearing is trash, and you're saying that it's the best thing ever. It's like it's because you're invested in that team. Like right. You have to say it. Like I can't tell you how many times like somebody has come up to. I'll give you a great example. John Derula, who plays for you, he used to wear my pants. His brother, when he was playing on Wreckage, went up to him and he goes like, "Yo, have you checked out Kinetic? They make dope gear," even though he was playing for Damage or Revo at the time. The fact that pro players are noticing this very small company is like, "Yo, we're not even doing anywhere near the quantity that these other guys." Just like, you need to go check them out because they make good gear. They make dope stuff, and like I can't wear it, but like you should absolutely check it out. And that's how I was introduced to John. And I walked up to him at World Cup 2018 with a pair of pants. He's like, "I'll let you try these out for the event." I'm that confident. I'm that confident in my product that you'll end up buying it. And he wore it for a match and then bought it. He sent me PayPal right after that. But it's tough how a lot of people is like they're under contract to say all these things and they don't speak their mind. And for those that are able to speak their mind, like I value those opinions a lot more.
The last person to talk to is a sponsored pro player.
Absolutely.
Because they're just a whore that's been bought by somebody else. Find a non-sponsored player who has an opinion on gear. Non-sponsored player who has an opinion on gear and ask them. But anybody who is getting financial benefit from a company, the fuck do you expect from it?
Yeah, exactly.
So 2 things. John Christ said Jeff is a shitty cornhole player and that's why you're mad.
I've actually never played cornhole.
So it's safe to assume you're a shitty cornhole player then.
Probably.
And I just want to know the answer to this. The question itself isn't really anything, but Brian wants us to ask you how you feel about Amazon.
I don't get that question.
I don't get it either, but he really wanted me to ask that.
I mean, I buy a lot of shit from Amazon. I applied for a job there and it did not go well. It was a fucking horrible interview. But I'll say this. They're so nice. Like
so nice.
I was 5 minutes into the interview. It was clear that I was not a good fit. And they were so nice and encouraging. Well, what do you think is a good fit for you? It was a great interview. I had a great experience. I really enjoyed interviewing with them. I feel so bad for wasting so many people's time because it was obvious within the first 13 seconds that I was not going to get the job. But no, I felt like I walked away. Nobody called me a fucking idiot at the time, even though I was clearly an idiot who was wasting their time. So.
All right.
That's great. I guess we'll wind down to the last question that we always ask. So we really appreciate you coming on and everything. So Sam and I and a bunch of some of our other media friends, we are part of this thing called the Media Gang. It's essentially we're bringing this media collective to paintball tournaments, whether regionally or nationally, and we're kind of trying to help raise the bar for media as well as give a place for all these people. Like if they need a place to stay, like we can now get a house together and things like that. Have you heard of us? And if yes or no, like what are your thoughts about this kind of being a thing? Some people have been saying that it's a revitalization of the photomob era.
Like homeless photographers who are looking for a place to crash?
No, not homeless. Just no, just people. Us being able to stay together, and kind of gaining those like cost efficiencies that teams normally get with like less rental cars, getting a house instead of like having 10 photographers getting 10 different hotel rooms. It's now like we all get a house together.
So I don't know about any of that shit, but call me, offer me free media, tell me you need a space on the floor of whatever house I'm fucking renting. We'll work out a deal.
Sounds good.
Should have asked that question earlier, Rob.
Should have asked that
before he was on his 3rd bottle.
Fair enough.
We do appreciate you coming on. We appreciate everyone that watched it. You had a pretty steady, like any point in time between 15 and 20 people watching at any point in time. It's been pretty long. It's been like an hour and a half. Maybe even 2 almost.
We're at hour 45 right now.
Yeah, so good.
But yeah, I mean, since we're at the end of it, do you have anybody you want to shout out? Any sponsors? Anybody you want to thank? This is that time.
GI Sports provides paint. Matt's Outback Paintball, where we practice. I'm really kind of drunk. That might be it.
I mean, that's a good list.
So thank you everyone that watched it. Thank you for coming on.
Maybe whiskey, because it's really a lot better than you think it is. You don't. Maybe whiskey is much better than you think it is.
Thank you for that.
Shout out Canadian whiskey. Yeah, this is another episode of Stories from the Sidelines. Thank you with Jeff Stein, absolute legend from the Northeast. Thank you for doing everything that you do within paintball and really setting the standard as a coach and a team manager. You've made it through from what it sounds like, the decades of paintball and everything that has evolved and devolved
since the 40s. It's crazy.
Since the 40s, according to Brian Catania. But you did it, you made it, and you can talk as much shit as you want.